this year at about 42, just maybe there are around 42 million passengers, maybe give or take 10% depending on how the next 30 odd days goes. And we will end the year at about 500 plus, 500,000 plus metric tons of cargo. So very, very good year. We've got over about 15% growth as far as passenger traffic goes, and a similar number as far as our cargo growth goes. We are now connected to over 100 destinations. That's also fantastic from Bangalore. Direct non-stop connectivity to over 100 destinations. 75 domestic destinations, 31 international destinations. We have 38 passenger carriers who directly serve Bangalore, and 12 cargo airlines which also serve Bangalore Airport. We're the only airport in South India, like I said, with two independent parallel runways. That's something that we created in terms of making sure we had adequate capacity. The new South Parallel runway was inaugurated in December 2019, just before COVID. And as many of you know, we also opened Terminal 2 in January 2023. It was inaugurated in November 2022 by the Honorable Prime Minister, and operations started in January 23. And already 25 million passengers have passed through Terminal 2 as well. But from a cargo perspective, I think the interesting part of the story is that we are effectively tripling in cargo capacity and size once in about a decade. Right? When we started off this airport, we had about 130,000 metric tons of cargo. When we celebrated our 10th anniversary, we had about 350,000 metric tons of cargo. This year, we'll hit over 500,000 metric tons of cargo. So the cargo story is sort of been paralleling and mirroring what has been happening from the passenger perspective as well. Because we did the same thing with passenger traffic as well. We tripled in size once in about 10 years. So we went from 9 million to about 27 million when we celebrated our 10th anniversary. And I think by the end of this decade, we will have about somewhere between 80 to 90 million passengers, and we will probably be close to 1 million metric tons of cargo. Eventually, we will have a saturation capacity of somewhere between 100, over 100 million passengers. I don't know the exact number because that depends on a number of other factors, and certainly about 1.5 million metric tons of cargo. So a substantial player in India, third busiest airport with respect to both passengers and cargo. We have, as I said, we have a lot of connectivity now. We have 75 domestic destinations, and the interesting part is we have connectivity to about 28 destinations which are within a 75-minute flying time of Bangalore. And that's also something that's very important because it helps build a hub here at Bangalore. And over the course of the past few years, I think we've been very successful at creating that hub here in South India, because we've got so much traffic now that's going through here with connecting banks from a domestic to domestic perspective, domestic to international, international to domestic as well as now we're starting to see a small beginnings of international to international connectivity as well. And this is very important even from a cargo perspective, because as you build this traffic, we've got belly capacity coming in. And that means that the Indian carriers and the foreign carriers are also sort of bringing that capacity here to Bangalore. And from a cargo perspective, it's very important to have both belly capacity and freighter capacity. And with the growth of this traffic over the last few years, it's been mirrored in that growth from a cargo perspective as well. So today we do sort of 13% of India, we do about 40% of South India in terms of overall cargo. And the growth, if you look at CAGR here over a 5-year period, has been 4%, which is really amazing if you look at domestic and international cargo. And I think our big advantage is the fact that we are equidistant to all major cities in South India. We are located in the middle of the South Indian peninsula, and we have a great advantage of being equidistant to a number of places. And I think if you look at this map that you see on the screen behind you, the interesting part is you've got all of these cities, about 28 to 30 cities, which are located within a 75-minute flying time. And that means that cargo can get here easily. Cargo can then sort of be taken off and put on to other planes which go into other places. And the fact that we have 31 international destinations and those 75 domestic destinations means that the cargo movement is seamless. We've also got what I believe is world-class infrastructure here at Bangalore Airport, whether it's our passenger terminals and now certainly our cargo facilities. Whether you look at this facility, which you will get a tour of later today, I think this domestic cargo terminal is, we've been told by our airline partners that it's one of the best terminals that they've seen, and certainly amongst the largest and best domestic cargo facilities in Asia. So we have very strong hopes that the domestic cargo facility will drive the growth of domestic traffic. And from a South India perspective, I think Bangalore has about 40%, over 40% of the market share. I think it's about 43% right now, depending on how you calculate it, but it's certainly 40% of South India's cargo goes through here. And that means that, from a tonnage perspective, this year you can see that growth, you can see that dip when COVID happened. But fundamentally, there's been significant growth over the course of the last few years. We will end this year in excess of 500,000 metric tons overall. And from a domestic perspective also, you can see the growth, what's happened. So what this facility, or what we expect this facility to do, is significantly start, pushing up the interest in domestic cargo. And domestic cargo is driven principally by two things: express, in terms of just in time and express cargo deliveries. You have the Amazons, the Flipkarts, and various other things that people order that need to get delivered on time, and that means that everything has to come in quickly. And you also have perishables, and those are the two things that principally drive domestic cargo growth. And I think from our perspective, given our facilities here, given sort of the infrastructure that we have here, and given our partnership with Menzies, who is one of the two largest operators of cargo terminals globally, I think we're in a very good position to capitalize on what I believe is going to be a great sort of decade for Indian aviation and Indian air cargo growth. So we are very excited by this, and thank you, Anil, and the whole Menzies team for what you've done. And I think this is a partnership that's going to go from strength to strength. And we firmly believe that Bangalore Airport and BLR Cargo, along with our partners, is going to be a very, very significant player from a cargo perspective here in India. So with that, I'm just going to sort of stop my presentation, and I will hand over to Anil, who I believe will sort of take us through the facility.
Before I talk into the details of this Greenfield terminal, please allow me to share a brief insight of what we do as Menzies Aviation and what we are. So as Menzies Aviation, we are the trusted partner to the world's leading airports and the global airlines. So we operate in about 300 airports in 65 countries, spanning the 6 continents and serving 500 customers worldwide. So what we do, we provide cargo handling services, we also provide ground handling services, then we're responsible for passenger services and also into-plane fuel, and also we manage airport launches across the globe. So coming to cargo services, as Menzies Aviation, we operate in about 72 warehouses globally, and on an annual basis, we handle about 2.5 million tons of cargo. Now, speaking about this new terminal for domestic cargo, it is a significant milestone for our journey. It is basically to strengthen the Bangalore Airport's position as a premier cargo hub and also a model gateway for the domestic movement across India. Indeed, Bangalore has been witnessing a good air cargo growth over the last few years. And in fact, like as Satyaki was mentioning, if you look at the domestic connections for Tier 1 and Tier 2 cities, it's almost totaling to about 75 destinations across the country. And last calendar year, the total cargo throughput in both segments of international and domestic from Bangalore Airport was close to about 5 lakh metric tons, out of which the contribution from domestic cargo is almost about 1,80,000 tons. So if we look at a year-on-year growth in comparison with 2023, it was a 9% growth of the domestic volumes what we had. So keeping this cargo trajectory in mind, and importantly, the airport's vision, I'm talking about the Kempegowda International Airport's vision of achieving 1 million tons by the end of 2030. So this terminal has been constructed and basically to deliver the growing demands of the domestic cargo industry. And more specifically in terms of enhanced capacity, and also to ensure there's an efficient and a seamless process in the cargo operations. Now coming to the specifics of this cargo terminal, this terminal is constructed on a land parcel of 7.603 acres and with a built-up area of 245,000 square feet. So we have the capacity to handle an annual throughput of 360,000 tons, and again this can be extended to 4 lakh based on the necessity which arises. So while designing this warehouse, in fact it went through a lot of consultation process. And the consultation process was involving airlines, stakeholders, and agents. And it was basically to understand what we can do better from the existing warehouse what we had. And in fact, we did have a lot of input from the trade, and it was a constructive feedback. It was more basically on expansion spaces and with regard to the ULD ball mat areas or how many X-ray machines. So all these were being into consideration. So having said that, I would like to take through the features of this terminal. This terminal is it's got totally equipped with 4 gates on the main entry side and 4 gates on the air side. So these 8 gates would optimize the cargo movement, and it will be more of a streamlined truck movement, which will be ensuring an easy movement of the airline GSC equipment also from the air side. And in addition, we have 42 truck docks in place, which will be utilized both for the inbound and outbound operations. And the truck dock space, what we have is 20,000 square feet. And again, this is to enhance the process and the efficiency times. So next, coming to security equipments, this terminal, which is critical, we have 16 X-ray machines, and basically it is to accelerate a quick and a safe screening process. And we have allocated X-ray machines airline-wise. Now, as of today in Bangalore, we have about 6 airlines operating. So based on the capacity that each airline utilizes, it will be for Indigo about 4 machines like that. So we have allocated the different machines to airlines based on the cargo. Yeah, and furthermore, from the safety and security perspective, this terminal is equipped with 170 high-density cameras, CCTV cameras, which are monitored 24/7, and we have certified screeners doing this job, and we have an exclusive 4K video wall which captures the images of all the 170 cameras, and I'm sure you can have a look at this while you're going for a walk around. In terms of operations, specifically for handling of cargo from freighters and wide-body aircraft, this terminal is equipped at ULD storage spaces featuring ball mat areas, having a capacity of 30 ULD positions and also 8 scissor lifts. So all this material handling equipment is essentially required to support and ease up the build-up and breakdown of the ULDs. And we have also introduced exclusively customized designed foldable bins, which has a capacity of about 400 kg. So these bins are basically required for the domestic cargo to move easy on the truck dock and also inside to the air side, and which will increase the efficiency and enhance the process. And actually, this is a change from the conventional process in India, where all the cargo was being placed on skids and being moved by the handheld pallets. Coming to process automation, this terminal is equipped with track and trace systems, and it has an efficiency in processes and basically an interface with the airline system, which is required for the data exchange. And we also implemented about 40 handheld devices, which captures the real-time data on cargo acceptance, build-up, breakdown, and also delivery. And to simplify the cargo delivery process, what we have done, we have integrated the barcodes and the QR codes with email and WhatsApp communications, which allows the agents and the other stakeholders to complete the transactions easily. And in addition, we also have provided self-service kiosks, which are required for a quick and hassle-free transaction options to all our agent community. And having said that, lastly and most significantly, this terminal has been designed in accordance with the Indian Green Building Council standards, and essentially complying to sustainability features of skylighting, efficient ventilation. Then we have an exclusive STP and energy efficiency, where we are going to install solar panels over the roof, and all other measures which are required to promote the health and well-being of our co-workers and the cargo fraternity in large. So that's all about the terminal, and we shall see more in detail during the walk around, and I thank you for your patience.
Open the floor to questions. You may please ask them. Thank you.
Well, with regard to perishables, if I talk about the domestic cargo sector, you see almost 35% of the cargo is perishables. And this new facility has got exclusive cold storage rooms, basically from 2 to 8, and also the ambient temperature of 15 to 23. And if I have to talk about perishables, you see it's more seasonal. And in fact, I can talk about the Q3 of 2024, where almost 2,000 tons of coriander has gone from this airport. And likewise, we also get inbound cargo from mostly the northern side, Bihar, Calcutta, and other places, which is more green peas and lychee. So it is definitely going to increase, and it's going to add value.
Unbroken, right? So the entire from production all the way to delivery, wherever it's going, whether it's sort of domestic to domestic or domestic to international or vice versa, I think it really enhances the fact that we can provide an infrastructure. So if you go back to that video, for instance, that you were all watching, the whole point is that it's a combination of making sure we have the right facilities, but at the right place at the right time, and making sure we have the right connectivity. If you look at the destinations that we connect with, the 75 destinations domestically or the 31 international destinations, because I think it all has to work together, right? I mean, you're not just going to have domestic to domestic movement alone. There might be, like he said, so much coriander that comes in every year, or so many lychees, so on and so forth. But all of it doesn't go to one place. It all comes in and then it has to get, repackaged, redistributed, so on and so forth. So I think our goal collectively is to make sure that the ecosystem here is truly world class, and to make sure that from a cargo perspective, from a customer perspective, we provide them as much choice as possible for the best sort of price possible, right? And making sure it can get from point A to point B in the shortest duration without the cold chain being unbroken. So if you take all of that together, I think the goal is to make sure that we can optimize all of those things to ensure that we give the customer the best chance of making a profit.
Here for this beautiful presentation and giving the success of Bangalore International Airport. The first and foremost question that I want to ask is, last year we spoke a lot about cross-border transshipment, that we need to boost our capacity in cross-border transshipment. How do we see this new facility out here in Bangalore boosting its strategic positioning in getting more and more insight into getting what you can say a cross-border transshipment, maybe in e-commerce or maybe in perishables? How do we see this opportunity?
I think transshipment is a bit more complicated. There has been some cross-border transshipment. We've, I think, over the course of the last few months, done a fair bit from Bangladesh, for instance. I mean, you've got some of the stuff coming through Petropol and then out here and then going out. But I think transshipment at a broader level is governed by so many rules and regulations. And I think we are working with the government in India to try and make sure that we can simplify some of the processes broadly to ensure that we can do more transshipment. And I think it's not just about this facility, but I think it's about the fact that for transshipment, for instance, the screening regulations, right? It has to be, typically, if you look at transshipment all over the world, if you look at large transshipment hubs like Dubai, or if you look at Singapore, or Hong Kong, and other places, the key driver for that is you're trying to move goods across in the shortest time possible. Which means that if it's, let's say, coming from, I'm just making it up, let's say it's going from US to China via Hong Kong, right? You don't have to screen and rescreen and do all of these things. I think in India, we have a number of regulations today which mandate certain screening procedures and things like that. I think the government is well aware of this, and I think they're also working to try and improve and let's say, optimize some of those processes. So when that happens, I think you will see that the market themselves will sort of react much more positively to the idea of transshipping through India. Today, with the regulations that we have, it's not the easiest place to transship through as a nation. But I think that's something that's a work in progress. The government is well aware of it, and as part of the vision for sort of Viksit Bharat and to do more in terms of logistics and aviation growth, the government is working on that. So as sort of some of these things improve, I think that will naturally get people to try and do more transshipment through India. From our perspective as an airport operator or with our partners, I think the principle is to create that world-class infrastructure. We can talk to the government about potentially changing policy, but that's a government decision to make. We create the infrastructure, and I think after that, you sort of keep chipping away, and over time, I think as this improves, I think you will see more transshipment.
How are the handling charges going to change after the introduction of the new domestic cargo terminal? Is it going to increase or decrease for the freight operators?
Well, with regard to the handling charges, it will remain the same. If I have to give an insight, like for inbound cargo, we charge about 2 rupees per kg, and for outbound cargo, about 1 rupee 20 NP. So that's not going to change because all these handling charges are governed by ERA, which is the Airport's Economic Regulatory Tariff. It's not going to change.
We said there were 5 lakh metric tons or 500,000 metric tons through this fiscal year. So if you take last calendar year, the total tonnage was about 496,000 something, just short of 5 lakh. But when we end this fiscal year at the end of March, we expect to be north of 500,000 metric tons because we've still got 30 days to go. So that's the total tonnage across the airport. That's international plus domestic.
Okay.
So first of all, congratulations on this amazing milestone. My question is, staff and development are a critical sector in the cargo management. So what are you doing at this facility to ensure operational excellence?
Well, with regard to staff training, basically you see The training, what we induct for a new staff, it almost goes to about 10 days. And when I talk about 10 days, it talks about the aviation security training and also the basic cargo training. In addition to that, we also put the staff on the role, we also put the staff on the floor along with a senior mentor. So we make sure we get the best of the skill. And if I talk about the attrition of Menzies Aviation, it is not more than about 1.5% per month, and that also happens at the lower level. So in principle, like we have a retention and like we have a good skill-based, basically to run the operations. Yeah.
Capacity addition that's happened, right? I just want to understand what was the pre-existing utilization rate. Was there any overlog that you've had to do this capacity expansion, and what's the kind of utilization rate that you'll look for now that the new capacity has come in?
So I'll just take it at an airport-wide level, and then Anil can talk about the specific of the domestic cargo. I think if you look at Bangalore Airport, we've always created capacity in advance of demand, right? Before this terminal came up, we had an overall capacity here of about 715,000 metric tons. We are doing about 500,000 metric tons. So we've got enough headroom there. With the addition of this facility, which adds about 360,000 to 400,000 metric tons, depending on how you use it at peak times, you take capacity overall to over about a million metric tons. But if you adjust for the fact that we will sort of modify the older terminals and things like that, we will end up, after all of this is done over the course of the next year and a half, at about a million metric tons. So we've still got 2x the current sort of demand. So we are at about 500,000 metric tons today. We will eventually have capacity over the next year of about a million metric tons here at the airport. We are in the process of opening up a new logistics park on the north side. We are sort of refurbishing other facilities here at the airport. So I think we have absolutely unconstrained capacity here at Bangalore Airport overall with respect to the facilities. With respect to the domestic cargo itself, Anil can address that.
Well, with regard to the domestic, if I have to talk about the earlier terminal, we had only a space of 60,000 square feet in the integrated terminal where we used to handle international and also domestic. So this new terminal has got a floor space of about almost 200,000 square feet. And where we are handling in 60,000 square feet, it was only about 150,000 tons. And this has got the capacity to handle almost about 360,000 tons. That's the difference.
Agree for you. Does that also include pharma? Does that account for that, or is that a separate category when you look at? Is there a mix that you can give us in terms of category?
With regard to pharma, it's a separate category. In fact, there's a company called WFS who handles the cargo terminal too. So all the pharma is processed through the cold zone there. Yeah.
Just lastly,
I don't think perishables are the largest. The principal components of domestic cargo are, besides perishables, there's flowers, there's a number of things, and that will include any domestic pharma as well as express, which effectively means that anybody who's shipping through a Flipkart or an Amazon who needs to get it delivered next day or whatever. So there are a number of components.
Just lastly, you spoke about how this facility has motorway access. Right now, traffic congestion to the airport has been a concern for this city. Is there a separate track for them? What's the kind of motorway they'll be using? The trucks that come out of this facility?
No. I think, let me clarify. I think what my point, if you look at the video, was that we've got great access in terms of location with respect to national highways, right? So if you look at what's happening, we've got access to the highway which goes between Bangalore and Hyderabad on the west side. We've got a new state highway on the east side, and we will be delivering a new eastern connectivity tunnel that connects the east side with the airport, and that's going to happen over the next few years. That's discussion going on with the government of Karnataka. In addition, most of you are aware of the satellite ring road that also connects Hoskote, for instance, to Dobbspate, which goes just about 15 kilometers north of here. There's a direct access of that highway both to the east side and the west side, which comes down the two highways. The wider point was that we've got the right location with respect to where the national highways and the expressways run, so easy access to and from. So for instance, when the Foxconn factory goes live in Doddaballapur later this year, I think we're going to have significant movement from there to Bangalore Airport. When domestic cargo needs to come from other parts of Karnataka, when it comes from where it's produced, if you look at flowers or perishables or pharma coming in from, say, from Hyderabad or the northern side or whatever it is, I think the principal point is that we are very well connected with respect to how you can access the airport off the highways. I can't talk about the Bangalore congestion. I mean, that's sort of totally out of our ambit. We operate this 4,000-acre campus, and I can tell you what we can do here. But I think at a wider Bangalore city level, I think various initiatives are sort of underway. But nobody has sort of the silver bullet to solve that problem overnight. I mean, I think that's a much wider problem that people far more qualified than I are going to have to talk about. So we handled about 150,000 through the other cargo terminals on domestic. We also handled about 30,000 through Blue Dart. So we were handling about 180,000 metric tons even earlier, right? Now this allows us to go up to Blue Dart's capacity plus this 360 to 400,000, and that's just for domestic cargo. In addition, if you look at express cargo, if you look at sort of our two cargo terminals between Menzies and WFS, which are both joint ventures, all of it will take us to almost 1 million metric tons of cargo in terms of overall capacity.
You spoke.
Can you throw some light on the financials of the airport and how much of it is a cargo market for you? What is the profit you'll have acquired 2025, 26 and 2024, 25, and how much of it comes from cargo?
No, I can't shed light on that as part of this discussion because we are still going through this year, right? I mean, we will finish the year in.
No, I'm talking of the previous year, 2024 to 25. How much of it is a cargo share?
How much of what is a cargo share? The overall
how
revenue.
How much of your overall, revenue, profit?
I think if you can send me that, I mean, if you send me the question, I think the team will sort of get back to you with specifics because I don't want to come out and give you a figure that might be inaccurate. But essentially, it's part of our aeronautical revenue, as you know, and aeronautical revenue itself makes up about 65% of our total revenue. And so within that, we can, if you send a question, we can tell you what it was last year.
For this new facility, and my question is, Bangalore Airport dominated the South Indian air cargo market with 42% of share. Now with new airport being coming up in Hosur, Tamil Nadu, do you think in Bangalore's position will be challenged? What are your views about it?
I think that's a very open-ended question. Let the new airport come up and then we will sort of see how it does, because it's right now it's speculative. I don't think they've finalized the site. I don't think they've finalized the timelines or anything. I think they're still in discussions. If and whenever it comes up, I think we will have to look at what the challenges are and then deal with them. But at this point, I don't see a challenge. I mean, only when it goes live and when it's operational.
Those sectors, parcel, express, electronics, spare parts. And also, towards the end of your discourse, you mentioned about the Foxconn facility coming up soon. So, in terms of that, considering India as the next global hub for manufacturing in the South Asian region, where do you believe growth to sprout, and how this facility going to complement that going forward?
I'll take part of that question. I'll leave Anil to answer the other part. But I think Foxconn, that facility is principally for exports. This facility is a domestic cargo terminal, as you know, right? So I think Anil will answer that in terms of express and things like that. But the wider point was sort of linked to the earlier question on highway access and talking about, getting to and from the airport. And if you look at Foxconn, one of the reasons why they located where they did in Bengaluru was because they wanted to be on the satellite ring road, right? Because the principle is that when you manufacture, and in this case, let's say iPhones, you want to get it to the customer as quickly as possible. You want to literally get it in 24 hours to Europe or North America, or wherever the end consumer is. And they want to manufacture it in a facility that is world class, which is their facility at Bengaluru. They want to make sure that they can get it to the airport as quickly as possible, which is where the highway access comes in. And then they want to make sure that they can get through a facility which we believe is world class here at Bangalore Airport to be shipped out to whichever part of the world it needs to get to eventually. I think that was the wider point. It was not, Foxconn was just an example in the sense that, talking about highway access and location of a facility because they needed to get goods out. But I think in terms of domestic cargo and express, I think Anil can handle that.
Well, adding to what Satyaki says about Foxconn and the Apple consignments, as we understand, their movement of cargo from our warehouse would be sometime from the Q2 of the financial year. Okay, and as regards the terminal facilities for the international, we are going for an entire refurbishment. And what we are doing, this being a special product and a vulnerable product, we are creating a green channel for them so that it doesn't take much time and the process happens very quick and fast.